I got up this morning, and I do this little ritual in the mirror, and so hold on one second. I do this little ritual in the morning, and I'll be like, I'm ready for this. I'm ready for this. So this morning I was like bouncing around like a boxer, like, okay. All right. You think I can do all of this? Okay. I sent you that text last night. I was like, well, thank you for asking. I needed to get this off my chest anyway.
And it was interesting because I was, when you sent me back the message, I was just about to do a meditation. I had just sat down for a meditation. And so I took that into the meditation with me. And it was really interesting because some interesting energy showed up in that meditation. So I was like, okay, that was right on time. I meant to text you back after that, but it was like, I went from there to, I'm trying to think of what time it was when you text me, because I think I went from there, and then I got a call. I'm gonna say this over the thing. I got a call from my stalker. He calls himself my stalker. And he said, I asked him, I said, oh, so I get a call at this time of the evening from you? Because that's unusual. And he was like, yeah, he says, I had to say that as I was stalking you yesterday, he says, I didn't know that garbage trucks back up down the street for people. He was like, but I saw the garbage truck back up down the street just to get your trash. And I'm like,
wow.
So wait a minute. I'm because the funny thing is that I was sitting here and I heard the garbage truck. And so I ran out to the front porch and I hollered out, I'm coming. So I had to run back through the house, grab the garbage can or trash out of the thing, run downstairs, grab my garbage can, run out to the front. And then by that time, they had backed up down the street and was waiting on me. And so then it was so funny because I had to stand there while they were putting the trash in the truck. And I was like saying, I didn't think you guys were coming today because yesterday was a holiday. And so I'm talking to them and they was like, oh no, we didn't have off. We would, we blah, 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 blah. So I was like, okay. And he was like, don't worry, we got you. Okay, right. Now, so I was standing out there long enough that I remember the cars that were on the street. Mm-hmm. So I said to him, I said, I didn't see you out there. I said, were you in that black car? He was like, you don't know, I don't ride with no people in my car. Or he was not, because he got a truck. He was like, I don't ride with people in my car. And I was like, well, I didn't see you. He was like, well, that's the point of me stalking you, so you don't see me. But I saw you. I think it's so hilarious. It is so hilarious.
Wow.
I keep telling him I don't like having budget stalkers. I used to have stalkers that would, shovel my drive out and stuff, I don't like this budget stuff. If you're going to stalk right.
Right. And then you're going to let me know you stalking me for what?
Yeah. It's hilarious.
That's funny.
It's hilarious. But I tease him all the time, every time he says something, because he doesn't necessarily bother me until he'll, like, if he sees somebody's car in my yard, who is that you got over there?
Oh,
yeah, it's like, dude, is somebody coming to give me an estimate? Where you at? What you doing? It's hilarious. It's hilarious. So whatever. And so everybody knows I have a stalker, right? He's harmless, but it's hilarious. I had some good stalkers before in my lifetime, though.
Oh, that's good.
I don't know about anybody else, but I have had some great stalkers. You know, to the extent that the one, he would just show up wherever. If my car stopped, that dude would be jumping. You know, I could be getting ready to get out of the car and he just hold the door like, I got it. I just, you know, I would come out of work and my car be cleaned off. Everybody else out there in the parking lot scraping their car and all of that other stuff, my car be clean. So I've had some good stalkers. He is not one of them.
He's just a stalker.
Yeah, but it tickles me. It really does tickle me. And then he says to me, I didn't know you had cameras in your yard. No, I have a camera in my yard. So, whatever. He ain't shoveling my snow. So, I told him, I said, it don't do me no good having a stalker if you don't do anything.
Right.
Anyway, it's funny to me. So, all is well with you today, right?
It is.
Okay. Excellent. You look nice in your burgundy.
Thank you.
Yay. All right.
Yeah.
So now look, instead of I could sit here and jaw jack all morning, but I want to see if there is something that you wanted to backtrack on that family section.
No, not really.
Okay.
Okay. I appreciate you asking me that.
Yeah.
Be ready for that. That's good. Thank you.
You know, I realized that we did talk about in that section birth order, and there were a few other things in there that I thought were, you know, that was something that you really got into. And so I just wanted to make sure that.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm like, oh wow, thanks.
No worries. So yesterday, the section that we were dealing with was on page 49, healing the images and our brain. And you know, I have, you know, so I go through this thing where I talk about that the brain is really what is our, you know, the powerhouse that exists inside of our body. Brain is different from mind.
Very different.
Yes, but it is the powerhouse in our body. And I think a lot of people, we work out our muscles, you know, we do stuff for what we perceive to be our bodies, but very rarely consider that our brain is a muscle too, and might need some work, some attention.
Well, because it holds it's the storage unit.
Yeah.
For everything. It reminds the fingers what to do, and it holds the I don't know what that's called. I wish I could remember. It's the system anyway that keeps the storage for us. The giant file cabinet.
Yeah.
They have a computer term for that now. I'm trying to think of what it is, and I can't.
Hard drive.
Hard drive, yeah. A hard drive. A hard drive is good, but
or is it the operating system?
It's the operating system, the one that keeps all of the mega, the gigas, the storage, that keeps everything, and the code. I'm gonna ask Rob what that is. It keeps the code too. Code to make that thing do the thing that it do. Right.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because as I talk to people, especially people when they talk about what's the difference between, not that I really want to know this, but between dementia and Alzheimer's?
I don't know. We were talking about that the other day.
Yeah. So, or yeah, all of that stuff. And so then to, when you think about it, there are people who forget like simple stuff, what we perceive as simple. I'm often reminded of this woman who was so frustrated because her mother would forget how to open her eyes at times. And they forget about people and who they are. And sometimes are more comfortable with the past than they are with the present.
Because they've practiced that. That's so you just said something there. Because we practice the past.
Yeah.
We don't, the goal is not to do that, but we are programmed to practice the past. It kept us safe.
Yeah.
We imagine it kept us safe.
Yeah,
So
well, but it's something interesting about like how you said that, because even if we imagine it kept us safe, it was, how do I want to say, we still know how to maneuver in that space. It's one thing to put people in situations that are unfamiliar to them, but if it is something that they have successfully maneuvered, even in the midst of that maneuvering, they understand, there's a certain understanding there.
Yeah.
It's like people who move back south and you say something to them about, the prejudice that exists in the South. And he was like, oh, he says, I could deal with that. He says, because they're not hiding.
Yes, but up
the
north.
thing I don't like is that when people, you don't know when they intend you harm.
Right.
So yesterday I was on a meeting, the Ward Club meeting, and there's this company or this business that's coming in talking about how to improve the neighborhood. So like, say for instance, talking about revitalizing this side of town, and they're trying to put together and do surveys around this information, but people are not being receptive or helping them. And so my brother, who was running this meeting, he says, I need to talk to y'all about trust. He says, because we don't trust people. And, my thing was, as I typed in the window, I was like, this is the community that was hard hit by that predatory lending. No, we don't trust people. When you come knocking on our door talking about you got something that's going to help, yeah, people are slamming the door in your face. Because our experience has been,
and there's a cost to help.
Yeah.
There is a price to pay.
Yes. And so I guess without having that in context, we automatically assume that people just don't care. And it's not that. It's not that at all. So
a lot of our behavior is our experiences. I would, especially negative behavior, if there's something, it's from if we know better, right?
Yeah.
The stove was hot. Did not like that experience. Didn't like that.
I gotta do this. You know how those little things are. There. I hate those little things. Those little hanger things. And then they start bugging you after a minute. Anyway, so yes, it's based on our experience. And so when we're dealing with that, it's really just trying to, for me, if I can understand the context, then hopefully what I can do is put that in order. Now, yesterday I touched on this thing. It says healing images in our brain, right? This is the section that we're on. And one of the things he says in here is that allowing ourselves to be moved by an experience. This is in the second paragraph. Allowing ourselves to be moved by an experience or an image strong enough to overshadow the old trauma emotions and sensations that live inside of us. So the key way he was talking about, I'm sorry, I kind of missed over all of that stuff. Psychotherapy is about turning our ghost into our ancestors. And he suggested our ghosts can go from haunting us to becoming a simple part of our history.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it is, the ghost. Good morning, Winnie.
Good morning.
Sometimes it is the ghosts that when they're ghosts, they are the most trouble, because we don't exactly know why they're there or that
Right.
they're there. We just know something is wrong. And so when we perceive them just as ghosts, then it's, scary stuff, right? But then once we recognize why they're here, it's like, oh, come on, let me put you to work.
Right. You need to I think when we realize that the ghost is a family or a friend and not a foe, we can also navigate differently, right? And it's not something we're afraid of or that we're trying to avoid or things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's really interesting because a lot of us have ghosts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Good morning, Greg. How are you?
Morning.
Yeah, a lot of us have these ghosts that we don't understand. A girlfriend of mine used to talk about a shadow that was always in her house. And she would see
it. Oh, she would see it. Okay.
Yeah,
I was going to say she could feel it, but she could see it.
Yeah, she said she would see it. It was like a shadow. And she would, she was always like conscious of when it showed up. And she would say, "Oh, he's in there in the chair." Or when I went in such and such a room, he was standing over in the corner. She would talk about him. And then after a while, she said, he only shows up when something bad is about to happen. Right.
Okay.
And so that was kind of her estimation with him. I don't hear her talking about this shadow anymore. I don't know where. I have asked her about it.
You have?
Yeah. But lately, I don't know, in the last 10 years, I have not heard her talk about this shadow. But for me, I'm just always wondering, well, did you ask, who are you? Like, what you doing here?
Oh, especially if she's not afraid and she is embracing the experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. So
I have a
it's
friend
really
that had an experience like that, but they went to a QH and TT ceremony, healing. It's the quantum healing therapy by Dolores. I can't think of her last name, but anyway, they went to one of those type of therapists to do some work because they kept feeling like someone was sitting on their bed, like they could feel the pressure of the person or an entity sitting on their bed. And it went away for a little while, and then it came back.
I've had one of those poltergeist experiences before.
What's the poltergeist? You mean TV experience?
Poltergeist, where I thought that somebody was in bed with me.
Okay. And it stopped?
Darn it. But there's, it just, I mean, there's all of these thoughts about it, you know, there's these thoughts about it, because if you're not sure of what's showing up, yeah, then you have all these thoughts about it. So at any rate, and then, yeah, it's just whatever. So I will say that, so when they go from, so it couldn't have been an ancestor, that one couldn't have been my ancestor. Oh, well, I did say they were always planting seeds, but I certainly hope.
I don't know. I don't
certainly hope that that wouldn't have been an ancestor, girl. Quit it. Stop it. So anyway, so he says in here, one key way to do this, like, you know, so that they become simply a part of our history, part of our posse, part of what needs to happen in order for us to feel better about the ghost that we think is haunting us, is to understand that they might not be there. Usually they're not there to cause harm, but
Right.
really are there for some particular purpose, right?
Yeah.
And I know for me, it has been this question of, are you lost? Can you not get where you need to be? So the fact that my brother
You've always done that? You've
no,
always thought that, are you lost?
no,
Oh,
but I have since when I did that 9/11 experience I talked about.
mhm.
I kind of ask the question sometimes, why, you know, why are you here? You know, because I know that it is not necessarily, I was told that that wasn't my calling, that wasn't my field. And so I really stay away from, even though I've taken classes on how to do, you know, how to read or listen and see and all of that stuff. I have been told that that's not my arena. My arena is here, right? So I don't necessarily dabble in that. So my question would be, yeah, what you doing here? I keep dreaming about my brother, but they're happy
Dreamt
dreams.
again?
Yeah, they are really happy dreams, right? It's a feel good dream. And
Good.
so I appreciate being able to see him and seeing that he's in a good place. So
No, that's good.
yeah, it is really good. Um, yeah, it's really, really good. So he says, allowing ourselves to be moved by an experience or an image enough to overshadow the old trauma, emotions, and sensations that live inside of us. So he, you know, so yesterday, as I was talking about this, I was thinking about, you know, the events that happen for us that really show us that the thing that we went through, the trauma, was not necessarily meant for our bad, but rather like a advance pass.
Mm.
Like, you know, what we are thinking is happening for our demise or for evil, really it is for our good. But we had to go through what we went through in order to get pushed forward.
Mhm.
And so it's allowing that to be overshadowed, because sometimes we want to say no, you know, no, because we want to be right, you know, life ain't fair, or this wasn't supposed to happen this way, or whatever the case may be. Sometimes situations happen and people have to be moved out of your life for you to fulfill the destiny that you are called to fulfill.
Mhm.
That
And intellectually, you know, that makes all the sense in the world, especially when we can see stories upon stories upon stories that at the end, ta-da, right? But it's the process of that going through it. That's the part, like changing those ghosts into meaningful characters that are on my stage. That's the part that is the hiccup. That, I mean, that's him going to spending all this, the author of this book, spending all that money going to all these different ashrams and meditating and all of that, because the reality of that pain, whatever it is it's just hard to accept the fact that my parents are okay, like we're good, like that was a good thing, like
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. Good morning, Ruth.
Good morning,
Yeah.
Rose.
So all of this stuff is, like if we stay in our space, right? If not, if things never happen to us, then we get caught in thinking and believing that we are right about things, right? Like this is the way it is, I'm right about that. And and what causes us to reevaluate things unless something happens to shake us and then gets us to rethink some of the stuff that we've thought before,
Mm-hmm.
you know um and I find these things, I find it very curious that uh, like our friend that just passed, right? It was
Mm-hmm.
always interesting that she called, I guess for me, I'm always aware about stuff. And she called her mother. I mean, that
Mm-hmm.
was how she referred to her, mother. And it when I hear that, automatically it causes me, like you go to one of those detours, like, okay, this is a rabbit hole I need to go down, because now I need to think about what may what may cause that difference, right? I've got a friend who didn't like to be called mom at all, and she wanted her kids to call her by her first name.
Wow. Okay.
It was, and so sometimes it is me thinking through stuff like that, like where does that come from? And trying to understand, like connect the dots between, yeah, because they say that it's natural. I don't know if it's in here that a baby's first words is mama, you
Not
know,
daddy.
huh?
Not dada.
No, no,
The
no, no,
duh sound. The duh.
no. It's
Oh,
mama.
maybe it's mama. Okay.
Yeah.
Makes
And
sense.
yeah, and I'm not sure about where I was just reading that, but they were just talking about there's a
Yeah.
psychology behind it, right?
Mhm.
And so and so, for me, I just wonder when there's a shift in there, it always makes me wonder what's that about.
You looking for the pattern or just the reason?
It just really, it's probably the reason is based on a pattern, but I think what I look for is the reason.
Okay.
So some people will say, yeah, my mother didn't have any love left for me by the time I came, or she was detached. It wasn't like she was a mommy or a mom. She
Mm.
was mother. There's a certain amount of detachment that was felt. And so it manifests in how they interacted. So I find it curious. I find it curious.
Yeah. I know a lot of mothers. So
Uh-huh.
a lot
Uh-huh.
of them find it interesting too.
Uh-huh. Um, yeah, it just is really interesting to me. So um yeah, so I think that when he says in here this about healing images, sometimes sometimes we are arrested by, and when he's talking about images, it's not necessarily like, sometimes it's a picture, but not necessarily a picture. Sometimes it is an idea that we see in others or in other families or in other situations. You know, we'll see something that really triggers something for us. Like when I read that book by Isabel Wilkerson, it sort of brought together a whole bunch of things that I did not have the verbiage or the words for. They just started coming together. And as they came together, I was like, oh, now I see. Now I get it, right?
Okay.
Where I didn't get it before, I kind of got things. And so I do, when I'm reading, I read with this idea of how this could be true, how this could have some impact, you
On your
know,
personal self
on
or
in my
life or
family
whatever the
story.
circumstance. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, and my family story. Like I don't just read passively, but let me try to also see where this fits, because I don't necessarily think that things come to us by accident. That
No.
book that I just finished, called Yonder, was really good. But what it in there, one of the things that did is it was written back in slavery time, but you never heard them use the word slavery. They were either the thieves, they called whites thieves, and they called themselves, oh goodness, it just left my mind just that quick. Stolen. They call themselves stolen.
Wow.
Stolen people, and they refer to themselves as stolen.
Wow.
Yeah, and they called white folks thieves. And I was really like, yes, yes. Yeah. I thought it was really interesting the way they told the
So much
narrative.
goes into just those two words alone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So many energies come to my pictures, images come to my mind without the people, just the whole concept of what I've been programmed about both of those words. Just wow. Okay.
Yeah. So
That's powerful.
and yes, and it was, and so they never called somebody the master, or you know,
Oh, now.
they called them the thieves, and they were the stolen.
Ah,
It was a
wow.
really, really different energy to carry into the
Talk
story.
about a paradigm shift.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's good. Mm.
Yep, it was a good book. Actually, I found myself not being able to break away from it. It was really good, and it kept switching perspectives, you know, the differing perspectives of each person. So 1 minute it's out of William's eyes, and the next minute it's out of Martha's eyes, and the next minute it's out of Cato's eyes, and it kept shifting perspectives, and so it was really good. And then once you got used to their voices, it was like, okay, yeah, yeah,
Awesome.
yeah, yeah. So and so what I do know is that we are made to heal, regardless of what most people may think. We are meant to heal.
Like
And
a starfish.
I'm unfamiliar with the
The
healing of a,
starfish, when you cut the arm or tentacle off of a starfish, it grows back.
oh, what mean person did that in order to find that out?
What if it got bitten off by another sea creature, Sandra?
Oh,
There's a circle of life that's happening around here.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But yes, I believe that we are designed like that. Like, I mean, I don't know anyone who's grown a finger back or anything like that, but the healing properties, if we would give ourselves time to heal emotionally and physically, I believe that our genes, we watched our skin scab and color and cover over, and the color comes back and everything.
Yeah, now my little sister Valia, she did have a finger grow back. It didn't grow back perfectly, but it
Mhm.
she had lost her finger in a car door. And it snipped off the final joint. And because she was so young, they said it grew back naturally. Yeah. So I thought that
Oh,
was
that's
interesting.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I think if
Yes.
it happens by a certain age, it may have that property to regenerate itself. Yeah.
Just the thought of that. And then
Yeah.
when we were talking about the other day about the joint unified intention, I
Mhm.
remember my grandmother talking about going to a healing sex session. She was a healer, and she had to be, it's so sad. I missed out on so much juiciness because she had to be undercover. She didn't share a lot. And then she as she became involved in this ability to heal, she also transitioned from
Mm.
here, but she shared some very dynamic awesome information with us. But I remember her talking about witnessing a leg extend out and the person being able to put both feet on the ground, right?
Yeah. But you know what? One of the things that is really interesting to me about A Course in Miracles is A Course in Miracles is constantly saying that that none of this stuff that we perceive is how we perceive it. Whether we are
Yes.
never
Remember,
upset for the things that
we think
reasons
we
we
are.
think we are, or we are not what we think we are, nor are the things that we perceive, nor are they the way that we believe them to be. And
Yes.
so when I am studying all of this stuff on cellular biology and energy stuff, what I do realize is that we have a static idea of how things are and how they operate. But once we get down into it, that everything is energy. And
Yes.
all of this stuff is capable of being morphed and transformed and changed. But since since most people hold a static idea about it, they don't see themselves as having the ability to move energy,
And
right?
that's what my grandmother told us, that we are
Hmm.
all energy and energy never dies.
Yes, it doesn't. And so even this idea of transformation is possible. One of the things that we also learn is this wonderful thing, the brain and our bodies and our skin, that every 30 days it's like we got a whole brand new package here, that we exist in a brand new body every 30 days, because these things are coming and being replaced just like humans are. There is a constancy of cells dying and cells being reborn in order to take another cell's place. And
Right.
so it is this this constancy of the process that even makes the process possible. So why not see it as a malleable thing that we could then
Yeah.
zero in on that particular energy and then shift that energy around, right? But the interesting thing is that we fight up against that. So many of us fight up against it and call it something different. We
Mm-mm.
call it evil, or we call it Satan, or we got different names for it because we want our ideas to remain static. That's why people are always talking about the Bible as if the Bible doesn't change.
Doesn't
Well,
change. It's just, that's what it
yeah,
is.
but we do. So why, and I will say that if I go to that book every time and expect it to be exactly the same, then something is wrong, because either I need to change or it needs to change. It's
Exactly.
kind of maybe it's like the I Ching, that when you got a question and you open it up and you're willing to allow yourself to see what it's saying instead of what somebody else told you that it says.
Yes.
Allow yourself to hear it with new ears.
Mm.
Oh my goodness. So
All of it, everything, even
yes.
everything, even, the people on your, you could apply that to everything in life. Every single thing that we do or think,
Mm-hmm.
allowing it to be different than what it is that I say it is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What would it be if I did that? If I could if I could surrender to my nothingness?
So and so one of the things that that I really work at doing is not being fixed in my ideas. Not being so fixed that I cannot see that. Yeah, when she says be present in possibilities. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
let's not be so fixed that we can't allow things to actually change and
Mhm.
see them anew in every moment, right? Just like, yeah, whatever. If we bring ourselves to the moment and just, trust that what we're supposed to get will show up, and then be able to embrace that even.
Mhm.
I mean, that to me is such a much more powerful place to be in. Yeah.
I think
Um,
that's the reality.
well, yeah, yeah, it is our reality, but that's not what we've been taught.
I know.
And unfortunately, okay, so here, let me tell you this, Stephanie, because this is crazy. I think I've talked to you about this. My niece drives me nuts with her dancing, right? Because her dancing is that stiff stuff, where she does these little hand movements and and she thinks that's dancing, right? And so as much as I try to say to her, baby, that ain't how we dance. It's like, and then I start, moving and moving my hips, and she'd be looking at me like,
Like
she
doing all that.
and
Mhm.
she won't even dance with me. I mean, even if we do line dances, she won't dance with us. It's because that to her is not dancing. Then it struck me as I was writing yesterday that these kids grew up playing with that we.
Mhm.
You know, those the little things, and you got the little whole thing you hold
Sticks.
in your hand, the
Mhm.
sensors. And they had to do those little moves with the little sensor.
Oh, that could be.
And they
And
were
they step their feet on the pad too that connects to the unit.
Yeah, if you could afford the floor unit, yeah. And the funny thing is that the people that couldn't afford the Wii, they still dancing like regular, right? You still see them kids out there twerking and all of that stuff. They do dance regular. But for those little uppity kids that had those Wii's when they
That's
were,
their regular, Sandra.
huh?
That's their regular.
Yeah, that's their regular. For those little uppity kids, right?
That's their
So
regular.
I know, and they got that stuff before they were a certain age, and so for them, this idea that that's not dancing is kind of, they looking at me like, I'm thinking to myself, we need to collect up all them wees and get rid of them. We
Or
dance around my. She said when he said we dance around my house, my daughter had no choice. Well,
yeah.
good,
Yeah,
good.
dancing is a thing. Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, because
Babies come out dancing. They all dance.
They do.
Baby that doesn't dance. I
They,
don't know a baby that doesn't do that little 1, 2. they all do, and when you hold them on your lap, they just start to step and
mhm.
do their little
Yeah,
wiggle their little bottoms. Like
yeah,
that's something that's
yeah.
us.
But
Like that is a part of the cell structure.
but
Dance.
but somebody told these little kids that that little hand movements was a dance, and I'm like,
Like
that ain't,
they're doing the robot.
huh? No, they ain't doing the robot. You never seen those kids that do all that stuff
Oh, I've
before,
seen
and
them. Yeah.
the I mean, they do all of those little hand movements because that's what they learned off of those things. Like if you do the hand movements, you're doing it correct. And
Right.
that's not right. It's like they ain't even snapping their fingers anymore. It's like you gotta find the beat. There's a beat. There's a beat. You know, I'm saying to her these kind of things, and she look at me like I'm lost my mind. So yeah. And so yes, I love my I grew up with my mother and Motown. And we used to be in there washing dishes, singing chain, chain, chain. And we all blend in and we all singing and whatever, whether it was the Temptations or Gladys Knight or whoever, that was how we cleaned house.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, all of that stuff.
Well, we're gonna send some energies to your niece, some loosen up energies. She get inspired from a dream.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, yeah, and it's funny because sometimes you see these little girls and I don't know what kind of videos they've been watching, but you want to say, I feel like, that like you shouldn't even be thinking about that kind of stuff at this age, right? It should just be a dance and not a sometimes people put a lot of sexual stuff
Oh yeah,
into the dance that is not even necessary.
that's how the body is moving because that first chakra, that root chakra, is on. It's like it wants to be free, and so we see it in the collective. It's
Yeah.
just like I want to be free, and it's now we're not we're not nurturing it, and so it's just like kind of wild right now. It's on the whole other end of the pendulum. But once we teach, I can't speak for men, but once we teach these women and these little girls how to move that aspect of their body and how powerful that is, even the motion is radiates out energy. Like it would be powerful if the intentions are redirected.
Yeah, we got to learn how to love all of that all over again. Right. Teach it early. That's what Winnie has got her
Yes.
praise hands up.
Yes.
Yeah. Teach it early. Yes. And and here's the other thing is that I'll speak for myself. I didn't grow up with this awareness that the Black female body was beautiful. It was almost as if we were always in an apologetic mode for our hips being too round or our
Or
waist
not
being
enough on
small,
my case.
or yeah, or our, and so even with that, it's like, the I actually had friends who were always trying to cover theirs up because they were like, oh, it was always too much. Everything was always
Right.
too much. You either got too much butt, you got too much lips, you got too much boobs, you got too much.
Tatas.
Yes, you got too much. Everything was just too much, over exaggerated. And they would just, and it
But you
just
can have
seemed,
pretty legs.
oh, but our legs were too big too. Our legs was too
Oh
thick.
yeah, and they look like
They
horse
didn't,
legs.
Yeah, you know, Nair,
that's my narrative.
right, Nair for short shorts. And those little legs that they was on there on the thing, whether they was Hanes commercial or the Nair commercial, they
Right.
wasn't near like yours were.
Chicken leg wingy thing.
So a
Yeah,
lot
so
of us
true.
grew up with this idea that the images that were our bodies just were somehow not right. And so the first time I really saw somebody, that I went to a guy's house and I saw the black bodies that he was just, you know, that he thought was the bomb diggity. I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, like, what? Like, is you know, I had to ask the question, like, is that what's beautiful to you? Because I was, in my head, I was like, wow, it was a epiphany. It was an epiphany moment for me, because now all of a sudden I got why Pam Grier was up there. I got why they had Shaka Khan and, you know, the Shaka and all of that stuff. I all of a sudden I started seeing, you know, what I've been getting is different imagery. I was getting I was getting somebody else's images of what was. I
Or
told you about
someone
how
else's shame.
yeah, I told you about the time when I was, and I'll tell you how this is, you and Winnie, right? I'll tell you about the one time I was reading that Cosmopolitan magazine. Did I tell you about this?
I don't know.
I
I'm
was
not
reading
familiar.
Cosmopolitan, and they said, here's the test that they said. They said, take a pencil, a number 2 pencil, right? And they said, and if you could fit that under your breast and it not fall, you've got too much sag.
Oh.
So I put the pencil under there and I'm just sitting up there like the pencil didn't move. Girl, I looked over and I was like, I just picked up the box of pencils and I put the whole box of 12 pencils under there. And guess what? The thing did not move. I was like, oh, now what am I supposed to do?
Yes.
What am I supposed to do now?
What the world? Oh my gosh, there's so much work to do.
Yes.
What?
Yes.
So can you imagine a 12-year-old or an 8-year-old or a 14, even a 13 or 14-year-old getting a hold of an article like that?
Right. And so even, you know, I can't remember, but a couple of years ago, somebody went to, was it Paula Abdul went to the award show and she had on some low cut top and they was like, oh, you can't do that because we could see a crease up under your boob. And if it's sagging, that's not pretty. And I'm thinking to myself, like, who are you to say? Who are you to say? We need to stop body shaming one another and getting into all of this. What's, you know,
the image, yeah, the image, right. and projecting.
Yeah, we see our girls going to the gym, working out on these machines, talking about my butt jiggles. Yes. Like it's supposed to jiggle. Yes. What is wrong with us that we need to act like we need to have?
Got to have hard legs and hard butt. When I was growing up, nobody wanted no hard leg, but now everybody want a hard leg and a hard bottom. Oh, that's interesting to me, considering the population of people that are in prison. I'm like, is this some trickle down stuff? Why do we want hard legs and hard bottoms now? What's going on? You know, I spent so many times looking at hard legs and hard bottoms. That's what you think. That's what you think is supposed to be now, huh? I don't know. That's just my little tangent philosophy. Like, that's interesting to me. That
yes,
our bodies came for us naturally. right? I had a hard body for the time that I had a hard body, and then eventually it softens and does other things.
Mhm.
Especially my
I,
stomach area, but I kids, you know, but I get it.
yeah.
I get it.
I mean, there is a place where I think that we need to just love ourselves where we are.
Wouldn't that be phenomenal?
And if we can get to the place where we love ourselves right where we are without thinking that we need to be like somebody else or
Or
by
something else.
comparison to something else, if we could just love where we are, maybe what we would see is that other people want to love it too, right? It just I don't know. When he says continuous talk of empowerment, but they learn from us. Yeah, they do. They do.
Yes. And I got my baton, Winnie.
Yes, girl. And when that lady that used to live next door to me, when she told me that I needed to have some lycra on my hips, I was thinking to myself, like, I'm gonna go back over here where my mama is, because she ain't telling me I need to wear no girdle, right? She ain't sitting up there telling me I gotta have on a girdle every day. I'm not trying to do that. I'm not trying to do that. So I just think that, you know, you know, so he says in here, let me finish this up. Whether we are imagining a scene of forgiveness, comfort, or letting go, or simply visualizing a loved one, images can profoundly settle into our bodies and sink into our minds. In my work, I found that helping people to unearth the images that most resonate with them is the cornerstone of healing. There
Yes.
was there was a lady who came to my church one time way back in the day. It wasn't my church. I was going to this Reverend Johnny Reed's church. And he had this woman come in that was dancing with these life-size puppets. I don't know if you remember me talking about this lady before.
Mm-mm.
But when she came in, she had a life-size puppet, and this puppet, she was actually dancing with them and moving with them. They had arms and sticks and all of this stuff, and it was like as she moved her body, this thing was dancing and everything because it was attached to her. So she had to actually make some big moves in order for it to move too. And I remember looking at that lady and I was thinking to myself, my God, she is sexy, right? I mean, it's one part of you that's looking at the puppet because it's so amazing, but it's also looking at her as she made all of these moves and all of this stuff. And it really got me to thinking about how even the images that we receive are so constrained that anything that seemed like natural earthiness was somehow considered
Taboo.
taboo or bad.
Mhm.
So we've got this thing, even, one of the things, you go to other countries and other countries are not so like stuck on deodorant and calling it funk and odor. They
Right.
are like really
It's who
appreciating
we are, right?
the fullness of a person and not just the stuff that, you know, that many are repulsed by. So it is this, how do we really, I mean, do we
Mhm.
even know what we smell like ourselves? I mean, we've masked it with so much stuff. Do we know what our natural body smells like?
Mm.
I, I just wonder about that. And how do we really I just wonder about how we let what's natural, how do we celebrate that? Even if we don't go out of the house like that, if we ourselves know,
Mm.
what our breath smells like in the first thing in the morning, or, or if we just come to appreciate our own selves, our own scent, our own stuff, it just seems like it would just set us free.
It's revolutionary.
Oh my goodness.
It is. It
It's
is.
not being embarrassed by
It's
stuff.
the thing to do. Well, yeah, now that you introduced me to thieves and stolen, that just added so much more dimension to my whose thought is this anyway? Oh my goodness. Now it just yes. Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. It was an amazing, like, right. I just the whole, the book was called Yonder, and I was like, I picked it up thinking to myself, like, oh, I don't need to have another book in my thing because I got probably 6 or 7 that I'm working on. And here I am, I pick up another book, and then I devoured the book because it was just like, it just kept calling me back,
Yeah.
come on down
Gosh,
this
I'm
way.
loving it.
Yeah. So,
Thank you for today.
yes,
I
thank
gotta
you.
get going and do my little check-ins to all my little people. I'm doing deacon today, taking into the sick and shut in.
Well, yeah,
The
sending
healed and the healing.
yes, I sent some good energy over to 7 yesterday, and
Yes.
not ever having seen the little lady or anything, there was a part of me that was asking the question, when I looked up lungs, this idea of, people not feeling entitled to breathe fully in the world. And how do we change around that? Even that, like, show up and take a deep breath. You belong here,
Here.
right?
Yes.
This is a destined place for you, right? Now, how do we breathe fully into the moment? Like, like taking ownership over it.
Yes.
Yes, yes,
Yes. That's
yes,
good. Thank you. Woo!
yes. Just it fully inhale. Take up your whole space. And that too is healing.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, anyway.
Warrior.
Uh-huh. All right. So thank you so much for
Thank
this.
you.
Thank you for
Yes.
being
Thank
here.
you. Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Enjoy this
Winnie.
day, you guys.
Yeah, Greg
More some
and
sunshine.
you say girl, it's gonna be, I don't know. But
In my mind.
you are the light. Are the
I'm
light.
light. Yes.
Yes, your light looks better today. You got it together,
Yeah,
huh?
I did some little stuff. Yeah, I went on YouTube and educated myself.
Oh, okay. Okay. Good, good, good. Good,
Got
good, good.
work to do.
All right. Well, thank you
Thank you,
so
ma'am. Have an
much.
amazing day.
You too. All right. Bye. All right, so I'm getting out of here too, you all. I've got a boatload of stuff that's still on my to-do list from yesterday, and so I need to get busy with that. So we will pick up, I guess, here tomorrow. And I appreciate y'all. Thank you, Winnie, for all the comments. Sometimes it's so funny how we can see stuff and not see it at the same time, right? Yeah, we can see it and not see it at the same time, or it doesn't make sense until it's supposed to. That's what it is. And then all of a sudden when we get it, we got it. Like, oh, okay. So yeah, so even in this, I'm challenged to be free. All right, so love you. Thank you for being here, and I will see you, God willing, and the creek don't rise. Yeah, not taking the time. Yes, God willing, the creek don't rise. I'll see you tomorrow. Blessings to you. All right, see ya. And